Sandra, the floor is all yours.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for joining us today. It is such a pleasure to have Mathieu Grodet as our guest. Just to give you a little background on Mathieu, he was born in Orleans, France, and he first started out by studying art and drawing at the Visual Art Institute in Orleans before he discovered glass, and that was his passion and his love, I guess. He has apprenticed with some of Europe's leading glass studios, and definitely has fallen in love with the true Venetian techniques. These techniques are still the basis for most of his work, whether we see it in his wigwag bowls. And actually saying wigwag, I happen to be a collector of wigwag bowls, so here's one of mine. So whether we see the Venetian techniques in his wigwag bowls, or in his Venetian goblets, or in his enamel drawings, or in his Marini. To me, though, the most important and unique aspect of Mathieu's work is his attempt to be a witness of time, and it's over and over again in his work. It's a theme where he is a witness to the present, to the past, whether it's social, political, or cultural. Through his work, he attempts to build bridges and reflect on the world and its balance. It's just so much more than about beauty. I mean, to actually have this passion instilled in his work is very unique. And on a personal note, I'd like to say back in 2014, Mathieu moved to Toronto and became our gallery installer and much more than that. He worked in the gallery. Is it 4 years, Mathieu? I lose track of time because Mathieu's never really left. He left the gallery to build his own studio and to concentrate on his own work. But whenever there's something important happening in the gallery, we always seem to reach out to Mathieu to see if he can come back and give us a hand and enjoy whatever is going on. Anyways, it is a relationship that I really and truly value with Mathieu. So Mathieu, it's a pleasure to have you here today. If any of you do have questions, you'll just put them in the chat or the Q&A, and Daniel will ask them for you either during the talk or at the end, wherever it seems to make more sense. So Mathieu, hello.
Hello, Sandra. Thank you for the presentation. So
Pleasure.
should I start?
Pardon me?
Should I start with the presentation?
Absolutely.
All right.
Everything's good there where you are? Are you snowed in though?
Yes, everything's good.
So Mathieu, where are you living? Why don't you tell everyone where you're living now?
So I live 4 hours north of Toronto in a small village named Killaloo. So it's in Ontario.
Mm-hmm. So you must be snowed in.
Very much.
Yeah.
Yes, we got a couple nice days those last days, but now it's snow is back again.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Yeah.
Freezing too, isn't it?
It is. It is.
Anyways, please go ahead with your presentation.
All right. Okay. Sorry, I'm not very familiar with all the technical things. So,
okay.
So thank you everyone for joining us today. And thank you again to you, Sandra, and to Daniel for having me speak today. So my name is Mathieu Grodet, as you understood, and I will start with a little bit of a background about myself. So I was born in Orleans. It's like 100 kilometers south of Paris on the Loire River. And this is the street where I grew up in Orleans, which is an old city where we are celebrating Joan of Arc every year since 1429, when she delivered the city from English. So every year we have a parade, and then we all walk. So Orleans is on the King Valley, and this is Chambord, known for his more than 240 chimneys. And this is where my father grew up, well, in the city of Fontainebleau, and not in the castle, unfortunately. And oops. This is my family. My grandfather with the white shirt and my uncle are on the lap of my great-grandfather. And this is in 1945, my grandfather being released from Mauthausen concentration camp after 2 years far from his home. And I show you that photo because it's had a huge impact on my family and myself and later on my work. So I was in the art school in Orleans, and the art school was in the shadow of a 1,000-year-old cathedral, and traditions are never far. And another tradition in Orleans was glass blowing. So this is typical pieces from that time and the mid 1600. After I discovered glass with a friend, I left the art school to do an apprenticeship in a medieval village in Brittany. Then around the same time, I discovered flame working. So flame working is another way to create glass objects with a torch. So after I obtained my French glass diploma, I started to work in different studios. And here it's in Nancy, a famous French glass town, where I learned traditional tableware making. And from this region come from also Émile Gallet and Lalique, who are two big inspirations for in the glass world. So that's Lalique's work.
Beautiful.
That's Émile Gallet's work. So that's beginning of 20th century. And this is the island of Crete in Greece, where I worked for a year. I had the luck to be a part of a European program. So I thought Crete was all sunny, and I was surprised to find a brutal winter, like a glimpse of what my future life would be in Canada.
Sure.
So this is almost 20 years ago. This is actually 20 years ago. So after Crete, I did work in Holland at Bernard Hessen's studio. He's an artist I truly admire. He's a very free-minded, free-spirited. But like many others, I wanted to travel. And for almost a year, I was backpacking. I'd been across the Atlantic Ocean in a 33-foot boat. And I visited more than 10 countries during that travel, including Mauritania, India, or Brazil. So that's New Delhi. And that's in Brazil, where I took a boat to go up the Amazonia River. What I was traveling, I always stay connected with my passion for drawing. So I did a lot of drawing during the travel. And drawing being my first love, I kept building and people. And this is Moebius, a famous graphist novelist, French, has been one of my first artistic influence and still are. He influenced a lot of movies, also with the American movies, as well as Alphonse Mucha, who you might recognize here, who are Austrian artists or worked in France. And when I cannot blow some glass, then I need to draw some glass. So as long as during the day when I don't do glass at night, I draw them. And I always draw on antique paper as to keep a link with the past. Here is some other drawing. So those one take a lot of time to do.
I was going to ask you how long it takes to make one of those drawings, Matthew.
This one particularly might be more than 2-3 months, but the one before I'd be like maybe 4 days. So that's like a regular format, and this one is a big format.
Very intricate.
Then I always try to articulate my two passions for drawing and glass blowing. So I love comics, American comics. So I make them blow glass. Some more drawing talking about glass.
That person was a hostage.
Sorry?
That was a hostage in the last one. It looked like a hostage.
Yes.
No, maybe not. Maybe not. Sorry.
It's I really like animals, as you can see. So I always try to make the animals redundant in my work. And I really like that one. Then when I arrived in Canada 15 years ago, I didn't know anyone in the glass world. So I started with making some beads. I did a lot of beads, and here is two I still like today. Even I don't do beads anymore. And eventually I started collaborating with the Canadian artist Tanya Lyons, and we did a series together of wings. And so some have more than 800 feathers, all made one by one and attached mechanically to a metal structure. So they all have names. This one is Underwater.
Beautiful.
And doing the wings inspired me to revisit the work of the 18th century glass diorama. So here is two examples of it. So we can see this one and this one, who might be 1 foot wide. This one is to show in the Corning Museum of Glass. And I created my own diorama to celebrate the new kings. So everything is in glass, but for his suit and the curtains. So I have a little bit of details picture. So it took me more than a year to do that piece too. So that is for the glass floor, which is a wood floor. I check on internet for the most intricate wood floor I could find as a pattern. And then I redid it in glass. And the chair also, just the chair took me 1 month to figure out how to do and then do it. So the chair might be 2 inches high.
We showed that piece in the gallery if you remember.
And that is 2.5 inches high. And that's 2 on 4 inches. So I did the little keyhole with a Marini. And that was all for flame working, and now a little bit of glass blowing. So this is an ancient and antique Roman bowl. We can see a Marini on the bottom of it, but that was a big source of inspiration, like how you can put the color together. So from that inspiration, I did a whole series of wigwag bowl, and that is how it's made. So that's kind of like the process. So it starts with the rods. Then I buy, I don't buy them from Venice, but the glass is come from Venice. So it's a Venetian glass, Moretti glass for the one who know. And that is during the process. So first we lay all the cane together, then heating them in the kiln, then with a kind of a donut of glass on the top of a pipe, we roll them up. The same techniques than David Patchen, if for the one who followed David Patchen or the lecture 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, that's the same technique. So, and that's what we can do with that
So
technique.
beautiful.
Thank you.
Sense of color is gorgeous.
And I always use the same color, so yellow, blue, and red, and white and black. This one also is in Sandra's collection.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I have that here as well.
And they are all signed with a glass signature, which is a Marini.
You use a Marini to sign all your pieces, Matthew?
Almost all of them. Maybe some are not signed because I started those bowls when I started to do Marinis. So I had some from 2019, 2020, and 2021, but not before.
Mhm.
And another passion of mine is glass goblets. Like a lot of a glass lover, goblets is always a technical achievement, as a very fun game to do. So here is an example of engraved goblets of 1586 that I found absolutely beautiful. And when I see that, as with the diorama, I want to start a conversation, like a dialogue with the makers. So that is my response. So this one say, my conscience is my only master, and being purchased by Corning Museum of Glass. So that's another one. Then I also decided to bend the rules of functionalism by affecting the form. It's like, as long as you can drink in it, it's still a goblet, but if you start to bend it, then it's become more like a canvas to say something on it, or like those one are engraved. So they all have a title and a story. Then I started to incorporate paint enamel into my work. So that's also old techniques was being used by Venetian in the 15th century. And it's not too much used until today, because it's a very tedious and not friendly users techniques. So due to the material we use, it's hard to source, to find the supply. It's hard to find the information, and it's hard to spend a lot of time. After we paint on it for hours, then we need to fire it. And then the firing is where you risk it all. So you can spend a lot of time working, and just like in one day of firing, everything is not good. So I think that's one of the reasons why we don't see a lot of that technique around. And here is two examples of historical glass. So you can see then, even historically, like the lines are not all straight. There is a lot of little, not mistakes, but little blurb here and there. So it can show that it's really, really hard to manipulate. So that was my own version of it. And I could have my two passion of glass and drawing meet again.
So beautiful the way you have combined it.
Thank you. So that's also always with like not always, but like 99% of the time, there is a quote of either a book I read or somebody I heard of the radio or something. Some people are way better than me with words. So I'd rather using their words and putting my imagery, or put their words on my glass. So of course I always quote them and tell their name. So that was also a goblet. That's another one. That's bended goblet. And that is, I created those 3 goblets as a part of my residency at the Tacoma Museum of Glass in 2019. And that was, I will talk about the residency later, but you can see. So I choose to have the filigrani did into the glass. So all those little lines are really traditional Venetian techniques. Then I apply some traditional enamel on it, but the shape and the meaning of the drawings, the narrative and the shapes are not traditional. Then in addition, this is a plate from Venice. This is a plate from Venice, which it's a traditional plate. It didn't been made long time ago. This is fairly contemporary, but it's really reflecting the Venetian style. And that is my version of it. So those are 18 inches diameter, and then I paint on it for weeks and weeks. That's the little details.
Detail
Yeah.
is incredible in your work, in your drawings.
I try to really pay attention to details, and there the little cherubs are very busy texting on their iPhone.
I missed that. Okay.
You can see I tried to do a pear and not to do an apple, but it's so
Oh, I
small
see.
and we don't really see it. And here's the last big plate I did. It's also 18 inches diameter, and just the song around the music notes around took me 2 weeks to paint and to scratch and paint again and scratch again to have as best as a result I could have.
So what would that music be? Is it?
It is a song from Leonard Cohen. My accent is terrible, sorry.
Leonard Cohen?
Yes, thank you.
Yes, Leonard Cohen.
Yes. So this is Everybody Knows the song.
Ah, okay.
And that is a collaboration with the very exquisite glassblower Raven Sky River. So we met with Raven like in 2012 or something in Corning, and we decided to have a collaboration together. But those things take a lot of time. So I think we needed like 5 years to complete the piece. And that is the photo of the piece. So that's a big beluga, or more than a 3 foot long. And I spent more than 3 months painting on it. And the painting is it's not a tattoo, it's more a reflection of what happened in the environment of the beluga, who's like a taint on him.
The beluga has paint on him, but what is the meaning of the story on the beluga?
It's all what affects the marine's world, the sea world.
Yes.
So yeah, it's like
Okay.
it's like so there is a lot of little not garbage, but you know, little piece of tiny things. We know the plastic continent in the ocean, so it's all about how dirty it is. So it's hard to represent dirty with make it nice. So so we can see like animals or war machines bleeding gas.
I was going to say, it looks like there's an oil spill there.
Yes, there is oil spill everywhere, and it's kind of like a march. Everybody is like going in the same direction. And in addition to my glass work, I also had the privilege to work with Sandra and Daniel at their gallery. And Sandra Ainsley carries some of the biggest glass artists like Chiuli, Dante Marioni. So that's Chiuli again, it's Dante Marioni, as well as Philippe Baldwin and Monica Gisberg. That it's Pullman and Knowles behind. Sorry, that's Dante again. And Tudzinski and many more. So my experience with Sandra and Daniel was really a really great experience of behind the scene as a glass artist. We don't always see what's involved behind for exhibition and all the work of a gallery. And I wanted to say, Daniel, to be careful with that piece. So also the experience of my experience of glass artist is also teaching. So I've been very lucky to be invited to teach here and there in the world. So that was in China, where when I arrived at the airport, I saw that very inspired Chiuli piece. And that is me and the glass students in China in the action. Then I've been invited to Japan to teach also Marini, glass blowing, and enamel. So that was the very good Japanese student, very great students. And beyond the teaching, I've been invited in Turkey to show, also to do a for glass symposium. So, to show kind of a glass festival. So that was the team. We all have the same T-shirt. That's Gabe Finan, also from the Tacoma Museum of Glass. So we've been invited together. And for the one who followed the show on Netflix, that was like now I have a whole Elliot Walker, who win the Netflix season 2 of Blown Away. So that is like during the symposium teaching, or another experience as a glass artist is the residency. So I did residency in Corning Museum of Glass, in Lommel in Belgium, or in the Tacoma Museum of Glass. And the Tacoma, that is the great team of Tacoma, Gabe Finan, Sarah Gilbert, and we see Faraway and Ben Cobb. And
I was lucky enough to be there with you.
Yes. You guys were there, which I really wanted to, of course, thank you and Karen and Steve to make that residency possible. So that's a big plate we've done during the residency. And we can see Courtney, who's turning the pipe. So now the last part of my lecture, will be about Marini. I'm fascinated with Marini. So what is a Marini? Is a color pattern or image made in a glass cane and revealed when the cane is cut into slices. So if it's not clear, don't hesitate to ask me again. It's kind of a hard process to describe, but that was some of the first Marini known on the Roman Egyptian era. And that's the same era. We can see the pattern is a regular pattern we're reproducing. So that is, you can see here the different components involved in the process. So on the 2 left images, we can see this is all different pieces of glass who are not attached yet. And then in the torch on the right pieces, on the right photo, then you can see it's starting to become one piece of glass. And then after stretched, sliced, and polished, then that was the result. And that is a very special order from a very special little girl. My daughter had a little rabbit at the beginning of the pandemic, so she wanted a Marini rabbit. So here it is.
Charming.
That's a rooster, as you can see, and you can see all the different components on the lower right side who's going to do one Marini. So I need to pull every part separately, then put them together when hot. So that's a very long process. And then I can do marble out of those Marini too. And that's a display of the slice and the ends of the pool. Then I come to, I wanted to do a bigger piece with the Marini. So I decided to do the Declaration of Human Rights. And I wrote a little text. It's short, just to explain a little bit why I did that piece. So I'm just gonna read it to you in like 1 minute. So for all of us looking at the news on TV, listening to the radio and scrolling through social media, it can look like a lot of things are going wrong on so many levels and so many places around the world. I thought it was an appropriate time to look back at a social contract drawn up in 1789, the Declaration of Human Rights. Yes, and it's not perfect, neither it's complete, but I think it's still a powerful statement that needs to be heard again. So the Encyclopedia Britannica described the Déclaration des droits de l'homme et du citoyen as one of the basic charters of human liberties, containing the principle that inspired the French Revolution. So in the French language, I reproduced the original document in a mosaic style with over 17 1,000 letters composed of Murini. The Murini techniques originates from the Roman time and has recently been revitalized. Over several months, I created each handmade letter with Italian glass. I use a dark red reminiscent of the color of blood for the letter with an ivory background as a contrast and to symbolize the ivory tower that freedom has to be taken from. A Murini triangle with an eye found on the top of the work represent equality and the all-seeing eye of providence. So that's for scale, and that so I started by creating each letters, numbers, and spacers, and cutting them into little individual tile. So I never did mosaic techniques before. So here is the small scale prototype. Small scale prototype I did before to do the big one. So you can see here the scale, and on the right picture, the size of one little tile. That was the process. One time I lay it all down flat, then I needed to put it on the canvas. So that was just that process took me 3 weeks just to cement them all together. That's the result.
What is the overall scale of the declaration?
It is more than 4 feet high. I don't have them the exact dimension in mind, but you know, you can see when it's behind me.
Yes.
It's the biggest piece I did, and it's maybe 40 pounds. It's very heavy.
So overall, how long did it take you to create this piece?
I think it took me more than a year to when I started and when I finished. But then if I was working maybe 3 months at 10 hours a day, maybe something like this, it's hard to do the good calculation. So a little detail.
So this was definitely a passion of yours then to create this piece.
Yes, it was very it was significant.
Mm-hmm.
And a big adventure, because I never did mosaic before. So I had to ask some friends who are doing mosaic what material to use, how to use, where to start, where to finish. And, you know, just to find a frame. This is an old 18th century frame that I found in an antique shop in Toronto. So I really did, you know, took the time to find the right frame and to make all the pieces fitting. It was a big endeavor.
Yeah, we talked before that this was drawn up in 1789.
Yes.
The original declaration.
Yes.
And then, right?
Yeah, it is the original text. So it's almost the same text than the 1952 UN one, but this one is a little bit more out of the mold. You know, it's 1789, at least for French people, when we just had the revolution. So it was very, the question of freedom was very fresh in people's minds, was very new.
Mm-hmm. A number of people have asked, where is this piece today, Mathieu?
It's on the way to your gallery.
It's for sale for anyone who
Yes.
would like to know. The piece is for sale, which is quite remarkable that it is available. It's a very unique piece.
Yes.
And when I talked about your passion, this is your passion, really, not just glass.
Yes. Social issue.
Mm-hmm.
But it's always hard to talk about those issues. So I thought then a bit more than 200 years ago, at least in this geographical pocket, everybody was agree on one text. Everybody was okay. Then this is gonna be the base of our society, and I think it's need to be reminded everywhere in the world today. Like we should not tear each other apart and try to find ways to live together.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, that was a very, very important piece for me.
Well, congratulations. It's quite remarkable.
Thank you. And that is, so I show you the Merini techniques with the letters, and that is a Merini from Dick Marquis, Richard Marquis, which is a American Seattle-based artist from the glass movement, and that was his PhD, if I'm not wrong, of 1972. So he did that's the Lord's Prayer as a Merini. So I'm not sure of the exact size of it, but it's maybe a 1 inch on half an inch, something like this. So that my version of it. So instead of cutting individual letters like for the Human Declaration, I cut a cross section of the letters, put them like this. Then I do the words. So letter by letters, I put them all together when it's hot, add some glass, put them again. Then with the cold working equipment that you can see on the left, I size everything and put everything going together as a Tetris or puzzle. So that is like very, very, it's a lot of time to have everything fit. I cannot make any mistakes of, orthograph or forget an S or forget a letter, because it will of course, like wound the integrity of the meaning. So with pieces like this, there is no room for mistakes. So that's what it gives. So that is like a quote from a poem from Percy Shelley, who was the less famous husband of Mary Shelley, who wrote Frankenstein. So you can see on the right side the slices, and on the left side one slices and the two ends of the pool. So the two ends of the pool, one time the pool is done, I take them back with a little ponty, with a little rod of glass in the flame, and I finish them. So I add the red around, and I had a little Merini with my signature and the date on the side. So I take care of them. And so, of course, the technique challenge is there. So I wanted to do a text. We talk about interesting things who can all interest us. So that is a text from the historian Howard Zinn, American historian Howard Zinn, talking about our problem. So feel free to read it when you have the time. But then you can see the work on the left image, and then the small Merini on the right side. Mm-hmm. So because there were so many words, I could not pull a piece of glass that size. So I had to cut it in 4 different chunks of glass. So we can see on the right side, the text is divided in 4. So, okay. So this is all the difficulty with so many reducing steps. I cannot reduce more one text than the other for at the end all being together. So there is a lot of, we can see it's not all straight, and that's make me sleep bad at night, but so far this is the best I can have as a result. And this one is at the museum now for an exhibition in Coburg Glass Museum in Germany.
Yes.
And that is more quote. So I did 6 quote, I think, so that you can see different size. There is George Orwell, Angela Davis, Mark Twain, Malcolm X. So I'm trying to be fair with who I represent the words of. And that is the big Howard Zinn, and you can see also all the different steps of the process. So from the letters to the words to the full complete pieces. And that's also again to show you all the steps to do Merinis. So it's involved a lot of cold working. So I need to shape all the pieces. And now in that photo, we can see the pattern I just showed you, how it's ended up being very small. So for this technique, because we are very few people to do that techniques, it's very time consuming. then I like to think myself as a researcher, not just an artist. I don't always know where I'm going because this technique being not being taught really. There is you can learn that technique with like Lawrence Stump, for example, in America, but it's very hard to have access to the knowledge. So I like to think then we are still in a research time for that technique. So I wanted to show you that image too. So on the left, you can see how I shape when it's cold the different component, and then put them together hot with the flame on the right side of the picture. So the right side, I'm like working. There is that you can see all the glass behind, the broken glass I'm working from, and then that's in the flame. And that on the left, there is a part of the process, and on the right side down, there's the finish piece. So that is one of my last work too. So memento mori is a Latin term to say remember, to talk about remembering sorry, look at my note. Remembering the memento mori in Latin mean remember you're gonna die. So it's like a little token or keepsake then we can keep in the pockets. We were very common in 17th century as a little keepsake to remember. Then we are not here forever. So odi mihi kras tibi mean today me and tomorrow you. So it's good also, you know, it's not a sad thing. It's a positive thing. So of course, with the time, with the reference to the time, I had to do kind of like a watch background.
Right. Pretty remarkable.
So that's a little ends again that I took again in the flame and add those little marinis on the side. And the 25 cents is here to show the scale.
Scale. I was about to ask you what the scale of that piece was.
Yeah. And that is a series I did of 6 marini. And I thank you, the Canadian Council Craft for the Art, for their help and support to do that series. It's a lot of work, and I tried to show you what kind of work it was involved in that. So so the idea was the animal demands, and to think of what the animals would tell us if they could talk. So in the animals, there is also the human. And that is the very last marini I worked on. So it's a sentence from Goethe, or Goethe, the German philosopher and humanist. And so who said nothing is worth more than this day, because at the end in glass, if you know, it's hard to give a message for the people, and especially if in the future those pieces are surviving me, what do I want to let behind me, or what do I want to say to the future, our future fellow human? Well, I think that is what I'd like to say, to take advantage of today. And on the bottom right, you can see on the side again of the ends of the marini, I add my 2022 signature marini. Mm-hmm. And I want to finish by the sun, to explain all right.
Well, so, Matthew.
Sorry, yes, Sandra.
No, I was just going to say, while you were looking at the sun is in the gallery.
Yes, so yes. The sun is in the gallery, and it's made out of more than 5,000 pieces of glass and 1 marini in the center. And we can see better the marini here. So and the sun is more than 3 feet across. And after more than 20 years of glass practice, I can see a thread connecting my family heritage and its impact on my work. And beyond my artistic world and practice, my daughter remained the light of my life and my biggest accomplishment.
She's a beautiful girl.
Thank you. And now
You've
it's like,
been a dedicated dad.
you know,
She's
yes.
lucky, she's lucky to travel the world with you from time to time.
Yes, yes. So that's the last image of my presentation to tell you that I'm gonna have to go back to do some more work. So that's my
Yes.
studio where I work.
Well, it was a wonderful presentation, and I'm
Thank
sure
you.
I can see we have a lot of questions, and I think that we should open up, and Daniel, maybe if you'll read the questions, because I think a lot of people are interested in some of the techniques, and really, I mean, I've known you for a long time, but yet there's so much depth in you, Mathieu, and where does it come from? It comes from your family. I guess it comes from all those experiences that you had.
Yeah, definitely been a big, it's a big thing, yeah.
So let's see what questions. Dan, can you ask some of the questions that people have?
Yeah, before we jump to the questions, I'm just going to put up some images of Matthew's available work.
Oh, that's a great idea. Thank you. So these are the wig bowls that we're looking at, which are in the gallery, and which I'm lucky enough to own a few of.
Let me try that again.
Okay. Easier said than done. Oh, there is that black and white one. There's,
So it won't let me enlarge my screen, so I'll just scroll through them kind of on a smaller scale.
those are the jewels, Mathieu.
Thank you. I really like working on that, on those bowls.
Mm-hmm. There's such a variety, even when they're the same colors, you know, they're so different.
Yeah, I always try to make, I'm making a point to not make twice the same, even if it's the same color. The twist will be a little bit more, a little bit less, to, you know, make them unique.
You're a very patient man. When I look at something like 5,000 pieces in the sun or in the wings, how many elements would have been in one of your large scale wings?
So the large scales, it's about 800, 900 feathers. And the smaller one might be 300-400 feathers.
It's beautiful.
And for the enameling, like I prepare the drawing on paper before, and then I need to do, you know, the math to divide the canvas to have all the pattern fitting the right place. So it's a lot of work ahead.
You know, I wonder if those goblets can be appreciated too, the sculptural goblets that we just went through.
Yeah, I really like those ones.
Do you want to tell us just a little bit about those?
Those one was really to take because I was in the Tacoma Museum of Glass during my residency, and I had this team was working with me. I'm usually a loner worker. I work alone, but then I took advantage to have those 3 really great glass blowers to push a little bit my boundaries. So those pieces really, I could not have done them by myself. I needed a team who were at least as good as I am, if not better, to really pull off technically those pieces. And then after to enamel them was also a challenge. It's all really taking the Venetian techniques and then throw them back together in a really not traditional way. So it's how to break the tradition without with respect, or with to try to bring another stone to the building.
Thank you. There's the declaration. So that piece is available and for sale.
Yeah.
It should be someplace where it's recognized.
It's for sure. It's a piece. I mean, was want to be seen. Like, we need to spread the word, the word
Mm-hmm.
of the right of people's right.
Okay, thank you, Daniel. Okay, now I think we can see if we have some questions. I'll let you
I have
handle
a few questions for you, Matthew. First of all, Stephen would like to know, with your enamel pieces, do you just fire them once, or are they fired repeatedly?
I fire them once, which is a big it's a big risk, and then especially it's complicate the work, because if you fire them in between each color, then you don't have blended, or the color doesn't mix together when you work. But then I want to fire them once because I like putting all my eggs in the same basket.
Mm-hmm. And Arlene would like to know, how are the letters in the human rights, how are those adhered to the background?
How they attach to the background?
Yes.
So they are a cement. I use cement. So it's like really the it's sand and some chemical components. I'm not sure what there is in exactly, but it's kind of a bounding cement, or cement, I think you call it in English, and it's the special one for doing mosaic. So it's holding, and then I tinted in black, which was an extra work. I didn't want it to hide the transition between all the little tile, and keep the surface sharp, because freedom, it's not something polished and smooth. It's a sharp things, and if you touch the surface of that piece, then you might cut yourself, because every piece is sharp. So I like this also, this sensation of, it's look friendly, but it's not friendly. We all love freedom, but it's hard to realize freedom for all of us. So that I like this this feeling of, it's a hard texture.
And lastly, you mentioned with your wigwag bowls that you work in kind of the same 6 or 7 colors.
Yes.
Is there a reason for that?
Yes, I always, it's long time I'm drawing, and then to draw a tree and using green for the leaves and brown for the trunk of the tree look a little bit too much expected for me. It's too obvious. So I'm a fan of Okuzai and the Japanese stamp of 17th century, where they were using only blue and yellow, because they were natural pigment we were holding with the time. And from blue and yellow, you can do many colors. So so you can do some green, but I don't like the green too much myself as a color. So I banished the green and decide to only use a blue and a yellow. And the red, little bit of red to give a little craziness to the blue and yellow. Although now that I said and green is not good, I will have to use a green in a next piece. So yeah, that's how I worked. I did some choices. I had to do some choices with the colors. Because
sorry, go ahead.
I worked a lot in production shop, and then we do all the colors of the spectrums of the rainbow, because we used to say, don't mind of the color, you are not buying what you do. Some people will buy your glasses or your plate, so don't worry about the color, and you should do a green, a purple, a blue, and so on, because some clients gonna like it. But as an artist, I don't want to answer what the client's gonna like. it's the clients. If he likes what I do, great, but I'm not gonna just do a green because somebody gonna buy the green.
Mhm.
And lastly, you spoke about how you work with Moretti glass, and I know that's not very common in glass blowing, at least in North America. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes, so Moretti glass, it's so there is so as a there is a coefficient of dilatation going with every kind of glass. So it's mean that when it's cooling down, it's dilating, it's moving in different ways. And the glass I use is the glass we use in the island of Venice, and it's the numbers is 104 versus the 96 that we're going to use in North American studio, and Boro, for example, it's 33. So I use a softer glass than we use traditionally, which make the challenge a little bit more complicated because it's making your time, the brackets of time you can work is longer than the Boro, for example. Then as soon as you go out of the flame, it's gonna become a stone and not move. When more the glass is soft, more it still want to move. So it's like turning with a car and turning with a boat. There is a lot of momentum. So I guess that's what the word I was looking. The more you go with soft glass, more you have momentum. So more you have to plan ahead and work with the time. So I like working with that glass because it's more challenging than the regular glass. And as you say, like I know another artist working with the soft glass like Moretti glass, it's Claire Kelly. She's also using the same glass. So, and it's trigger a lot of technical problems because we usually don't charge the furnace with this kind of glass. So if we want to do pieces like Claire Kelly, we have, or the one I do, we have to charge the furnace with soft glass, which triggering a lot of technical problem, expense problems. So yeah, that's why most of people doesn't use that glass. But also last point, why I use that glass in a hot shop, it's because I use that glass in a flame working. So for me, it's going, I use the same car if I go to the baker or if I go to Florida. So that's why I use the same glass all over.
Good explanation.
Thank you.
So Matthew, what's up for you next? What direction are you going to go?
So I'm still teaching here and there, and then I'm going deeper and deeper into Marini, which is really appear like an unexplored field in the glass world, or not explored enough field. So after all those years and my 20 years experience, I see them, doing big pieces, it's hard. You need to, I mean, it's all going with, how to say, a task force almost, like being far in Ontario. I don't have really connection to blow glass. So each time I want to blow glass, I have to go down to Toronto or I go to Corning. So I go work for a week. And then, so it's all like a very long process to blow glass for me. So now I'm more installed. I set my flame working studio in my garage, in my studio here in Kilaloo. So now I have all the equipment and I'm ready to work hard for the next year and to see what will be the next opportunity for me to jump on.
Well, that sounds wonderful. I'll be interested to see what the next direction is too. And you'll continue with your teaching, which I know you just came back from Kansas City teaching down there a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, and I go in France at the end of the month for 2 weeks teaching. And then, so I go a little bit of teaching and a lot of working.
When you teach, because I know you teach quite a bit, what impact does that have on your work, if any?
You always learn things from students because if they are not, if they are beginners in glass, most likely they are, very good in whatever they're doing. So you always meet interesting people who open your horizon. And also to see what's the next. I mean, I always think I'm 20 years old, but I'm 45 almost. So I'm seeing another generation of glassmakers coming, behind. So that's where to see then some younger people coming in when I thought we were the last boys in town.
You were it.
Yes, yes. So I can see not anymore. So I like doing that. And for example, China never did Merini in their history. So they have a very, very rich history in ceramic or in many other things. But on the Merini particularly, I was very honored and proud to show them these techniques, and then after to see where that's gonna go. Japanese are very big in Merinis and all the small, very well executed stuff. So, you know, I don't think I have anything really to bring to the Japanese Merini making, but it's a new world popping in, and then really starting. I mean, it's stay glass, so it's still a big family of glass, but small is beautiful. That's how you say.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's beautiful. So you think you did have some impact in China? Has there been, what's happened there?
Well, I was when I was in China, I was there for 2 months. So I did a bunch of lecture and teaching in university and also private studios. And it's 2 years ago already. And I was surprised to see that the university are really catching up, and then bought some really great equipment, and really making lots of effort to create some university with glass programs. So I was pleased to see then the glass. It's a history in movement. It's far to be hand, or we still need to spread different techniques of glass among us. So that's very thrilling to think that we are participating to spreading the love of glass all around the world.
That has to really be a joy for you to see that happen.
Yes, it is. It is very great. And to interact with, I love traveling, and I always traveled. So I really love seeing, we used to say, oh, I don't speak Japanese, but I speak glass. So all the glass workers, all the glass lovers in the world, we don't really need to, it's better if we speak at least English, but.
No, I love that. I love that. We speak glass. That's cool. Great. Okay. Well, do we have any questions, Dan? Otherwise.
I think we answered all of them.
Okay, wonderful. Matthew, it has been such a pleasure to have you with us today. It always is. So I look forward to your next trip to Toronto.
Yep.
To come and visit us and to maybe bring us some new work. The pieces that we showed though today, including the declaration, are all available, and we'll send everyone a recording and a price list tomorrow.
All right.
Thank you very much. And
thank you, Sandra.
Talk again soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandra. Thank you, Daniel. And thank you all of you for attending my presentation.
I think it was a pleasure for everyone, Matthew.
Thank you very much.
Take care.
I wish everybody a good night. Yes.
Okay. Bye.
Bye-bye.